What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm not going to be reviewing a new movie or new release. Today, I'm actually going to be talking about the DC Extended Universe now that it has had its grand triumphant ending with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It is finally over. It's somehow still making money since it's still in theaters. But we're going to reflect on this very hit or miss, wildly inconsistent cinematic universe. And I had to bring in the cavalry on this one. And I have my esteemed co-host for these types of videos, Pat Guy. How you doing?
I'm great, Alex. How have you been?
I have been great. I've been thinking about doing a video about the DC extended universe for a while now, and I figured this was the perfect time to do it. January's dead for new releases. I don't feel like talking about any old releases quite yet, so yeah, let's just talk about shit, some good stuff, some middling stuff, and some bad that's not quite shit. But um,
Yeah, it's a very mixed bag for
yeah.
sure.
And I am wearing a Game of Thrones shirt for this review. You might be wondering, why Game of Thrones? Well, there's been so many different architects and so many different leaders for the cinematic universe that is totally a mess. So I figured since there were so many that were coming in, it really was a Game of Thrones between,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
like it.
the hierarchy of DC, which definitely did not change after Black Adam. So we'll just kick it right off. This began in 2013 with Man of Steel. Man of Steel, I think a lot of people were really excited for Man of Steel. It was the first Superman movie since Superman Returns in 2006. We were all I was kind of skeptical because it was Zack Snyder directing, but he wasn't writing. Christopher Nolan apparently came up with the story with David S. Goyer, who wrote the screenplay. You have a completely new Superman. This doesn't have anything to do with the Reeves verse or Superman Returns. You have Henry Cavill as Superman, Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, Diane Lane as Martha Kent, Kevin Costner, who randomly has an accent in BVS, as good old Jonathan Kent. I'm trying to think of who. Oh yeah, Michael Shannon as Zod, Russell Crowe as Jor-El. So you have a whole ensemble cast here, and I remember thinking, "Holy shit, that's a damn good cast for a Superman movie."
Yep.
Then we saw the movie. I remember my reaction to it. I'll get your reaction to it in a minute. I remember my reaction to it walking out was, "That was a great Superman movie. That's what we wanted with Superman Returns." And then I went sour after that. And now I'm just kind of back to the middle. Man of Steel for me is okay. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. I'm just right down the middle on it. I think it's a fine movie. Do I think it should have jump started an entire cinematic universe? We'll get into that. What are your thoughts on Man of Steel? What was your thoughts on like the cast, the announcement, the trailers, walking out of the theater for the first time? Have you had any critical reappraisal or de-appraisal of it, if that's a word?
Oh man, my thoughts on Man of Steel are pretty complicated, honestly. I'm a big Superman fan. Obviously, you and I both love Smallville. We grew up with Smallville. And this movie came out right after Smallville ended. So we just spent, 10 years with the Tom Welling version of Superman.
Waiting for
Um,
the kid who we knew could fly, fly.
yeah, and uh Yeah, I'm trying to remember how I felt before Man of Steel came out. I think I was, like, very interested just because it was Superman,
Right.
and to see him in, like, a more modern film, because that wasn't connected to the Reeve universe. Because Superman Returns,
Yeah.
I'd say to its detriment, was kind of anchored to the Christopher Reeve movies.
Yeah.
Um, Man of Steel, I remember the first picture coming out, that was him, like, getting up against the wall, and it showed him in the full suit.
Kinda remember that. The only thing I really remember is the teaser poster. It's that shot from the trailer where he's supposed to be, like, handcuffed, but, like, on the teaser poster, like, all the military guys are blurred out, and it's just Superman, like, standing there, and he's got the S.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I remember the first picture coming out and everybody making a big deal about obviously the no underwear on the suit was like a big like talking
I
point.
was okay with that.
Yeah, I think the suit looks cool. I think it works for, this universe. The movie itself, when I first left the theater, I vividly remember being angry. And I didn't vibe with the movie. And in some ways, I still don't,
Yeah,
but in some ways now I've softened a lot on how I feel. Initially, I was very angry about how they handled Jonathan Kent.
I think we still are.
I
Both.
still don't like that part of the movie. I
Yeah.
also wasn't fully on board the neck snapping of Zod, no matter what the debates were, what the reasons were. It didn't sit right with me.
Hmm.
And in some ways, it still doesn't. That's part of it that I'm less critical of nowadays. Um, but yeah, the movie itself just it didn't hit right with me the first time I saw it. It just didn't feel Superman to me. And I left the theater being very disappointed. And then I rewatched it probably like a year or two later.
Hmm.
I started to go, okay, I can kind of see what they were going for here. But so where I sit now, the more I've watched it, the more I've kind of softened on it. I don't love Man of Steel. I don't know if I ever will love Man of Steel. There are things, too many big things that hold it back for me. Um,
I've got about like three or four.
yeah, I the Jonathan death is still so unnecessary. Just
Okay, maybe five. I think.
the execution of it is just so
Oh,
strange.
okay. Here's my thing with Man of Steel. I'm okay with changing up the lore a little bit. Like I have no
Yeah,
problem that like the Fortress of Solitude is now like a ship. Like
yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, that's not a problem.
that's fine because he still finds it in a glacier in
Yep,
Antarctica. Like okay, I'm like okay, that's cool. Like I like the fact that like Jarrell's consciousness, like I like fully actual like Russell Crowe is like actually there.
yeah, I
Uh,
love Russell Crowe as Jor-El. I think he's great.
yeah, yeah, I do too. Like I love like when he was cast as Jarrell, I was like, that's perfect casting right there. But I love how he's just not like you don't just hear his voice like you would with Marlon Brando or Terrence Stamp. Like he's like his consciousness, like a full scale consciousness body, is literally there.
Yeah,
Which
he feels much more active in like
yeah, yeah.
especially later in the movie.
Yeah, I've always when I first saw it, like I always was a fan of the opening on Krypton. I've kind of lessened that stance the more I've watched it because I'm just like this feels too much like Avatar
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah, and like
yeah.
I'm like I feel like this isn't like this doesn't feel like Krypton or Superman to me. Like
Sure.
yeah, I do like all like the council stuff in that scene though. I think that scene goes on way too long. It could have been shortened by like 10 minutes. And it just doesn't feel Superman-y to me. But and then as we were saying, like with the whole like he finds the ship in the glacier, like that's fine. That like I can live with that. Where I draw the line is Jonathan Kent's death.
Yeah.
Like you were
That's still it does not sit right with me.
no, like, and
I
then other things he says too, where it's like, "What was I supposed to do, Dad? Let a bus full of kids die?" Maybe like I get the idea that he's
yes.
yeah that he's like protective of his son. He
Yep.
wants Clark to protect his secret, but I like in anything like any. I've barely read any Superman comics, but the few that I've read, the knowledge that I have of Superman from watching shows, the movies, Jonathan Kent would never be like, maybe you should let a bus full of kids die to
I agree. I agree. I think I understand, like you said, the reasoning for it. I understand why people defend it.
Mhm.
But Jonathan Kent, I think it's fundamentally wrong for him not to advocate for Clark saving people.
Yeah,
I think as much as he wants to protect his son, I
yeah.
think he would be proud, and I think this Jonathan maybe is proud of that. But
Mhm.
that line in particular always sticks out as like
It's
what?
very and it's not like it's like subtle or anything. It's not like it's
No,
like
it's a big moment.
yeah. He's like he's literally like it's not like it's like maybe and like
Yeah,
it's a vision. It's like audible, you know.
yeah, it's very matter of fact, kind of like I don't. And then just the death of Jonathan. Um, I mean, Jonathan has died in a lot of versions of Superman, and surprisingly, he was alive for a long time in the comics, like a
Yeah.
long until like 2008.
Oh damn.
Um, yeah, where they had him die of a heart attack due to stress from saving Martha from Brainiac. It was a whole thing. Um, but yeah, he was around for a long time. There are some versions of Superman where Jonathan and Martha are back at home still farming and stuff. But famously, obviously, Richard Donner's Superman, Jonathan dies of a heart attack.
Yeah,
And Smallville, Jonathan dies of a heart attack. Like, it's kinda become like,
the thing.
yeah, Jonathan dies of a heart attack because the importance of it is, like, to me, has always been obviously Superman has all these powers,
Yeah.
and none of his powers can help someone who dies from something that he can't save them
Well,
from.
it's more meaningful and poetic that way.
Yeah, it's a important lesson for Clark to learn that even with all his amazing abilities, he is not a god.
You
He
can't say
can't save everyone.
yeah.
Yeah, like, it's an important lesson, and this one, not only is it just kind of the whole execution of the scene just feels ridiculous, like, all these Kansas people think that hiding under an underpass is good during a tornado, like, that's not where you
Especially where
should
it's, like,
go.
probably tornado season year round over there.
Yeah, that's not where you should go, and then just the whole execution of, like, Jonathan goes back for the dog, and, like, Clark, who has super speed, could easily save Jonathan, and
Yeah.
Jonathan's like, "No,"
Let me
and
get
it's
small
like,
about a tornado.
yeah, and he lets him die, and I'm like, I don't care how much Clark wanted to protect his secret or how much you want to respect Jonathan's wishes to
In
do
that
that,
moment yeah, in that
he
moment.
should say try to save his dad, at least try.
Because that's a moment where it's you could easily save somebody.
Yeah,
That's not like a thing you can't prevent right there.
and, like,
That's the
a
pro
lot of Smallville already knows Clark's secret.
yeah,
Like, that's kinda revealed later in the movie that, like, a lot of these people already kinda know that he saved that bus full of kids,
yeah.
like, and to protect his secret from those people, it's just I don't like it. It's like if Bruce Wayne's parents got struck by lightning, is what I've always said. It just takes away from, like, the lessons or what
Yeah,
they're gonna be.
right,
Like,
right.
I just don't like it. But to not harping on the movie, the things I like about
Yeah.
I have softened on Henry Cavill. I don't think he's as glum as I used to believe, at least in this movie.
I don't think he's very good, though. I don't think he's
I don't
good
think he's great.
I don't think he's good in this one. I think he definitely gets better as time goes on.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's not given much to do later
Oh,
on,
I know,
unfortunately.
but
But yeah, I think he's well, I'll just say my favorite scene from this movie
the flight
is the first flight. I think that's like a legitimately amazing sequence, and it's beautiful, and it's fun, and it's
mhm.
exciting, and it's hopeful. Um, I like I've come to like Michael Shannon as Zod more than I used to. I think
I
he
will
brings
find
I
him!
will find him. I think he brings something to that character, a vulnerability that I think's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't like Amy Adams as Lois Lane.
I
I
don't
think
either.
she's terribly
I
miscast.
don't. I think
Like,
I think it's evident here, but I think it's way more evident the further you get into the universe.
she has none of the like
Yeah.
spunk and like fire that Lois Lane has. Like
Yeah.
she's just so passive.
Which you think casting Amy Adams should be like a grand slam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
'cause she's a
you need
great actor.
someone that can is
Yeah,
constantly going, and then
yeah,
Superman has to keep
yeah,
up.
like, yeah, that's the thing, and it's like, for me with Amy Adams, I'm like, "You're just Amy Adams playing Amy Adams, this
Yeah,
entire universe," and then they screw her up even further in the later ones where they just make her a plot device, um,
I didn't like
but
her.
yeah, like, yeah, because I remember when she was cast as Lois Lane, I was like, "Oh, that's a great casting choice for Lois Lane," and I saw the movie, I was like, "I didn't really like her as Lois Lane."
She's so forgettable. Like people
Yeah,
defend her. I'm like, name one interesting moment with Lois. Like
yeah.
that's just like from her, not
Yeah,
someone doing something with her. Like
exactly. Yeah, it's
a
like
line. Give me a good line. She
yeah,
says like
I
some
feel
witty
like
line.
the thing I've seen, I forget if it's this one or BVS, but the one I've seen people point out is where she's having that back and forth with Perry, and she's like trying to fight for like first class or coach on the plane or something. That's like the only one people can point
See,
out.
I don't even remember that scene.
Yeah. I forget if it's this or BVS, but like I remember that because I'm just like, oh, I bet people will point this out, and they do.
But Man of
That's
Steel,
how I remember.
I don't. I've softened on the destruction a bit. Um,
Here's my thing.
yeah,
I'm more interested, even though it's not executed very well, I'm more interested in the idea. Like, I think, and I'm just going to say this as a whole because we're probably going to have some Zack Snyder people watching. Um,
Oh, of course. I love you
yeah,
guys.
I
I
I
don't. I just want to say I respect Zack Snyder as a
I
filmmaker.
think
I'm not a big fan, but I respect him.
I think he's very good with visual storytelling. But when you have him write a script and you have him have ideas for certain characters. Like he's a good ideas person. He's just not very subtle about it, nor does he convey it well on screen. Like his visuals, like, yeah, you look at this. But this is also kind of my problem because I'm just like, oh, it feels like a frat boy just read a graphic novel and just wanted to make a Superman movie. But at the same time, I'm like, the visuals are gorgeous, except for those stupid zoom ins on like almost every scene during the
Oh
end.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I hate that. But yeah, I mean, like, as much as I'm kind of like mixed now on like the opening on Krypton, I'm like, it looks beautiful to look at. That's the thing. Like, he knows how to assemble a movie from a technical standpoint, from a visual standpoint. So I think the things that work or the things that I like the most, even if they don't necessarily work from an idea perspective or from a storytelling perspective, are the parts of this movie where he's trying to convey that Superman is like an alien that invaded Earth. All the action when the action and destruction starts happening in this movie, I easily become bored out of my mind because it's literally the last like 45 to 50 minutes of the
Well,
movie.
it's like they heard the criticism of Superman Returns of like
Yeah.
people just want to see Superman punch someone.
Yeah.
Like
But
and
it's
they took
crazy though,
it
'cause the
like
first like hour and a half of this movie, there's barely nothing.
yeah, and then you get like Dragon Ball Z level, which is cool to see. Like it's
Yeah.
cool. It's just
And then I don't need to see Superman swimming through the tentacles of the terraforming device for like 10
yeah, like
minutes.
there's an overboard of action, but I do think it's cool looking. I do
I
think
will
there's too much of it.
Yeah.
I don't love the destruction of the amount of it, but I do kind of understand the argument that, it's Superman's first day essentially. He tries to get Zod out of the city by putting him in space. Zod gets back down to Earth. Like
Yeah.
he does try. So I've softened on that a bit. Um, I don't like the kind of Michael Bay-ish part of this movie
Yeah.
where the military is like
The
Superman's sidekick. Like, I'm not big on that stuff.
Yeah,
I think it feels
Christopher
like
Yeah.
Transformers.
Yeah, Christopher Maloney. I forget the general's name, but and then you randomly have the guy that played Emil Hamilton in this movie too.
You have a bunch of Smallville alum in this movie,
Yeah.
actually. There's like three
Yeah.
or four of them.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I just easily because I love it when you see like Superman. I think what's really well done is when you see like Superman and the rest of like the Kandorians and the Kryptonians like super speeding. Like, I think that like the very brief spurts of it when it's like they're traveling like short distances to like avoid like gunfire and explosions, it all looks cool. But like I'm just like, where are the damn extras? I think if there were like people like running away or like people like just in the vicinity, I think I'd probably soften on it a little bit more. But like I just kind of look at the movie as a little bit lazy in that regard, and I feel like kind of for this whole universe at least, um I could be wrong, and then like there's only so many buildings I can watch Superman punch it's like how I feel about like the ending of this movie is how I feel about the Transformers movies as they go. Like the first one's like fun, and then the second one's like, okay, like this is kind of fun, but like been there. Then
Dark
the
of the
third one,
Moon's
I'm just like,
better than Revenge of the Get
and
out
then
of
the
here.
third one, by the time it happens, I'm like, I am legitimately bored out of my
Dark
mind.
of the Moon is so much better than Revenge of the
But I
Fallen.
am
Anyway.
legitimately bored out of it because I'm like, it's the same exact thing, So it's
Anyway,
like,
anyway.
yeah, so it's
Um,
like I guess that's kind of how I look at it. So, like, that's why I prefer the first, like, hour and 30 despite some of my grievances with, like,
yeah,
Jonathan Kent, Amy Adams. I'm not even that big of a fan of Michael Shannon as Zod, honestly.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, he's no Terrence Stamp, and
no,
he's not even a Callum
no.
Blue, but, he's, I think the more I've watched it, the more I've enjoyed his
Like, I think the idea of terraforming Earth into Krypton is kind of a cool idea. I just don't think it's executed great.
performance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not big on the codex stuff. I'm not big on like that kind of. I'm not big on like the Kryptonian like Oh,
That's
all
the
our babies are grown in labs, except
yeah,
for Superman. He's
yeah. It's the
Kal-El's a
first
miracle
natural
baby.
birth or something. Yeah, it's like it's
I'm
I
not big
think
on
that's
this.
yeah, I think that's kinda my thing with the beginning too, whereas it's just like
Yogi, hey, go lay down. Yeah.
I think that's kind of my thing with that opening on Krypton too, where I'm just like, you have like all these like different like scientific like because I feel like in like Superman comics and all that, they keep like that stuff on like the city of Kandor and like Krypton like simple. This one it tries to overcomplicate stuff by being like too like scientific, I think. So hey, what's up, Yogi? It's crypto.
It's Crypto, the super dog. Um, yeah, my thoughts on Man of Steel really now boil down to why are you bothering me? Really come down to um, I think Man of Steel, I'd appreciate it more if it wasn't trying to launch a whole cinematic universe.
Well,
I don't feel like this is the movie that should do that.
that's the
I think
thing.
Man of Steel would have been much better
As
if
its
they
own
had foregone the DC cinematic universe, or
on its
DC
own
extended
trilogy.
universe, whatever. If they had just done what Christopher Nolan did with Batman and said, Zach, you have a trilogy to do your version of Superman.
Yeah,
And I think contained as
I
Zack
think
Snyder's Superman,
honestly, I think I would have warmed up to Zack
I
Snyder more if that was
mhm.
the case, and I honestly thought that that's what like, when they announced Man of Steel, I honestly thought that that's what they were doing because I was like, "Oh, they just did Batman as a trilogy
I
now."
think that's what they were doing originally, and then they decided, "Oh, we gotta try to catch up with Marvel." But
Yeah,
Zack Snyder is such a specific stylistic filmmaker.
yeah,
I don't think you should hang a whole cinematic universe on something from him. I
right,
think you need a director that is much more malleable,
yeah,
where Jon Favreau made Iron Man what it was, but it wasn't like his style is so specific.
right,
Um, and Zack Snyder had such a specific view of Superman that whether you like it or not, Man of Steel is a polarizing movie.
yeah,
Like Superman fans were very on opposite sides depending on how you
yeah.
felt about
You look at the reception to this movie, like some Superman comic book writers were like, "Oh no, that was perfect as Superman." And then there's others who are just like, "That was a little bit too much, not what I would have
it.
done."
That's not Superman. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think they should have made this the start of a cinematic universe. I think it should have been the first in a trilogy for Zack Snyder's
I agree.
Superman,
I agree.
which you could have had 3 movies
I would have been
done.
more interested in that, I
I
think.
agree. I think DC shouldn't have followed Marvel. They should have gone, where are our strengths? People love the Dark Knight trilogy. That
Right,
was its own thing, its
right,
own view of of Batman.
right.
That's very different from the comics. Like the people forget Christopher Nolan's Batman is so different from Batman in the comics. It's not a
Yeah,
matter of adaptation. You can be different,
yeah,
but make it clear. I feel like if you're doing a cinematic universe of a comic book universe, Marvel was there's changes, but for the most part, they stayed very true to the core of those characters. I
right.
feel like a lot of the DCEU, because they had to kind of go off of what Zach was doing, changed a lot.
Oh, yeah,
And
for
a
sure.
lot of the characters became unrecognizable in some ways. But Man of Steel as its own movie, I have warmed up to. I'm glad it exists. I honestly think it's more interesting to view it as like, what if Superman was like a first contact science
Well,
fiction?
I think that's what I was trying to say before, like, I think that that's where the movie's the most interesting,
Mm,
and I think the action and destruction is where it's the most boring.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So I mean, yeah, I've warmed up to it. Don't love it, but I definitely don't hate it
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't hate it either, like, I walked out of the theater loving it, and then, like even, like, my mom, though, like, if I tried showing her this movie, like, a couple times, and she's just like, "That's not Superman, I don't like it." Like, so it's like so you're gonna like and you know her, she loves, like, everything I show her. So for her to have that reaction, it just tells you how, like, polarizing and this version of Superman is, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Alright, so next on the I had to pull up the list, so I was
yeah. I
trying
was just trying to think of what's next.
I was trying to go off the top of my head. Well, I know BVS is next. Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. I think we both hate this one.
I
There's
I
one good scene, and even then, I'm like, I don't think Batman would do that in that scene.
um I was angry after I was like frustrated and angry after watching Man of Steel for the first time in theaters. I
Mhm.
was physically, vocally
The veins were
angry.
popping out of your forehead.
Yeah, watching BVS for the first time in theaters, I was so pissed off because I haven't talked about this yet, but I grew up reading DC comics, like
Yep.
way more than Marvel. My knowledge of DC comics is so much more than Marvel because I grew up with for years every week going to the comic book store, reading so many different series, so
Yeah.
many different characters, and I have such love for so many of these characters.
Yeah.
And to see them not be used not only to their potential, but to like be flat out mistreated and like altered into like lesser versions was frustrating. And BVS was like the first expansion into like the cinematic universe, and it was extremely
Yeah.
frustrating to
And
watch.
and there were some casting choices that caused a lot of controversy. One that I think actually wasn't as bad as it was initially made out to be. One that was as bad, maybe worse than it was made out to be. The one that I don't think was as bad. Your brother will disagree with me on this. Ben Affleck is Batman. I I don't hate Affleck as Batman. I don't like the material he's given though.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I don't hate him. Even after I first saw the movie and I was pissed off,
Yeah.
I thought he was the
He's
best part of
literally the best part.
it. Which it's easy to do because one of the big problems. So here's where some of my frustration with this movie comes from.
Yeah.
This is the first time
Uh,
Batman and Superman
and Wonder
have,
Woman.
yeah, which like, but she's like barely a part
I
of the
know.
movie.
But
Like
like
it's
but yeah, but
ridiculous.
people always lump them together because it's like the Holy Trinity, you know?
Yeah, which is fair. But the movie called Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
This is the first time in cinematic history the Batman and Superman, who are two of the most recognizable icons in all of fiction, all over the world,
Yeah.
share the big screen together for the first time
In live action, yeah.
in live action. Yeah, it should be the biggest, most wonderful like experience. And
This should have made
instead,
Force Awakens money.
it should have easily made $1 billion. Let's be clear about that. When
Yeah.
people go, "Oh, it almost did," it's like this movie should have made like 2 billion. This is
And
like
like, yeah, it only made 873 and it's
yeah,
considered a
which
box office disappointment
yes, because it should.
for those
You
of you that are
had
saying that it
two
was
of the
successful.
biggest
Yeah.
Dark
You're
Knight
the
movies
two
were making
biggest
over a
titans.
billion.
You're the two biggest titans in
Yes,
comic book history.
the Dark Knight movies made over a billion with Batman alone.
Yeah.
That's because they were good movies and people wanted to rewatch them.
Yeah,
As many
exactly.
as much as I have issues with Dark Knight Rises,
Yeah, I saw it 3 times in theaters.
but yeah, I think I saw it like 3 times too. But Batman v Superman wasn't the movie it should have been. Straight
No,
up,
no.
financially, like business wise, I
Yeah,
could absolutely see why Warner Brothers was disappointed because
yeah,
this should have been an easy win,
yeah.
easy. But
Easy.
instead, the movie was a mess. It's
Yeah,
all over the place. Batman is clearly the character Zack Snyder cared more about because
exactly. Because
Superman is nothing in his own movie.
yeah, I remember, like, reading trivia for this movie. He only has, like, 52 lines of dialogue.
Yeah,
The
he had
whole
in
for
the theatrical cut, he had less lines than Spider-Man did in Civil War.
That's crazy.
That's
And then
ridiculous.
everybody's like, "Oh, the Ultimate Edition fixes everything." I'm like, "The Ultimate Edition doesn't fix any of my problems that I already had." The pacing's definitely better, and
It
you
clarifies plot holes, but I
have
don't like the plot anyway, so
yeah, which we'll probably get into in depth. I mean, starting off with things that I liked, it's not very many. I've already stated that I like Ben Affleck as Batman. I not necessarily the material he's given with him like branding like people so that the cops know like who to put in like Arkham Asylum. Apparently all like his Bat family's dead, so now he's got like machine guns on the Batmobile.
I fundamentally disagree with the idea that you're trying to launch a DC universe, right?
Yeah.
Why are you having a Batman that's like the grizzled veteran that's
Like I
already
get
jaded?
I get it. Like like you cast Ben Affleck, you cast an older Batman, but like you still
Why?
I know. But like
Why?
yeah.
Like, well, you're launching a
But like
universe. Why?
but like you could still do that and not have like the whole Bat family be dead. Like,
Yeah.
or like if you're gonna do that, like give me reason as to why Batman starts like mowing people down with a machine gun on
This
the
movie doesn't care about
yeah,
reasons.
because
It
like
barely gives you a good
here's
reason Batman
well
and Superman are fighting.
well, exactly. And here's the thing. It's like it tries to give you a reason as to why Batman is pissed off, why he's now crossed that like moral line that he has because apparently the Joker killed Robin and it's like ha ha jokes on you, spray painted on the Robin suit. I'm like, but that's not enough. You're subtly hinting at it, but you I needed more, you know? Like if you're going to do that, I need more. I need a whole Batman movie before this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they give Batman good reason to distrust Superman.
Yeah,
What
the whole thing with Superman, not like why? Like I don't get it.
well, the problem is there's a huge imbalance. There's Batman sees firsthand in a really pretty good opening of the movie. He
Yeah,
sees what Superman
which I
did.
understand. I find Batman's reasoning understandable. I
Yeah,
don't find Superman.
Superman's
He's just like
supposedly
he's just
no,
like you're a
the
vigilante.
reason supposedly is Batman's a vigilante. This is a problem, and it goes. The Superman we've seen that Zack Snyder has shown us has been just as bad as
Exactly.
Batman. He goes to save Lois in Africa or whatever, and sends a guy through a wall. Like it's like
Yeah,
it,
exactly. It's
that the problem it comes down to Batman and Superman in Zack Snyder's universe are too similar.
yeah.
These should
That's
be
the thing.
opposite
That's the
things.
that's the thing. I think that's the problem Zack Snyder has with grasping like these characters. Like he just
Yes,
wants them all to
his
be the
changes
same.
to Superman make it so this movie is Batman and Superman are the same thing. They
Yeah,
are two, and they're fighting for Batman's scared of what threat Superman poses. Superman's annoyed at Batman for being a vigilante,
exactly.
and then they try to give him more reason by going, "Oh, you have to save your mom, so go kill Batman." And it's like, okay, but
Then,
why
but
doesn't Superman just talk to him?
yeah, but they try to do it, where it's like Bruce,
He
like
tries for 2 seconds.
exactly. It's
He
like
would
Bruce,
the
like
real
this is a
Superman
misunderstanding.
would be trying the entire time to
Yeah,
talk to Batman.
yeah. Which is one of the stupidest moments in the whole movie because Batman's just like oh die like he's got like the whole armor, he's got the kryptonite spear and all that, and I'm just like that's literally like I like Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he's very physical in the role. I'm going to talk about a scene I really like, despite him killing people in the scene. But I'm not going to sit through a 2.5 hour movie just to watch that scene. I'll YouTube it. That whole scene to me is just like it's everything that's wrong with this movie. Honestly, I feel like Batman, like yeah, Batman's a little gruff, but I feel like if Superman's trying to talk, he would at least like try and talk to Superman, be like at least like see his perspective. And if he's like, okay, then if we got to fight, then we'll fight. But
The movie doesn't give either of them enough reason to not hear each other out.
exactly, exactly,
There's not a moment like there is, and yes, I will compare this to Civil War because they came out the same year and we're both sort of about heroes fighting each other.
yeah,
They don't give the movie and the characters reason. In Civil War, Tony at by the end of the movie, the reason he fights Cap so hard at the end is because there's a point where you believe he would stop listening to reason.
yeah,
He hits a point where he goes, "This guy killed my mom. I'm going to kill him. You lied to me about it.
yeah,
I will kill this man because I'm that pissed off." And
yeah,
they sell it. They make you
yeah.
believe
The
Tony is
whole the whole
angry
movie
enough.
builds to that.
Yes, it's really well built up. This movie builds up to that type of moment, and the fighting between Batman and Superman doesn't feel warranted. It doesn't
No.
feel earned. They have like this little like pissing contest early in the movie where they're like, "Do you bleed? You will." And
Oh,
it's like why? Why don't you talk to each other?
yeah,
Like why? Like but Superman barely talks.
yeah,
Like so,
exactly.
like
That's the
it's just
problem. Like I think that's why I can't get behind Henry Cavill because he barely talks in Man of Steel. He has like no lines of dialogue in this movie. It's
I
like
think Henry had potential. He's not given anything because
exactly,
they clearly care the least about Superman.
exactly. So back to what I liked. So Ben Affleck is Batman, despite the piss poor material. And then the one action scene that I think is good, despite Batman killing people, the warehouse scene. I think that really shows Ben Affleck's physicality as Batman. I think the choreography is really great. I think it's very well filmed. I'm like, that's like it felt like I was playing an Arkham game. Like that's
Yeah.
like the combat I was seeing in Arkham. Other than that, I don't like anything in this movie.
That's kinda how I feel, like, I don't think, uh, any of the Dawn of Justice aspect supposedly building
Oh
of
yeah,
Justice League works.
they set up the Justice League through a
Like, yeah, with
tile.
yeah, the email videos of one
Yeah,
and then Diana, Wonder
John
Woman is
Doe.
there, but
Yeah.
they don't explain who she is or why she's there, so it doesn't really matter.
Anytime she's on screen, you just hear
Which is, like, hype, it's cool, but, like,
yeah.
the movie doesn't make her feel like a character, and
Well,
it's like,
like
yeah, maybe they're just saving her for her own movie, but it's like, yeah, but, like, if you're gonna put them in this narrative, I should like, if I didn't know who
yeah,
Wonder Woman was, you should explain to me who this character is,
yeah,
because they give you literally nothing.
nothing.
She's just
She
a
literally
random
just
woman.
is there.
She's just this woman that shows up and fights, and it's like, okay,
Plus,
but,
too,
like,
it's like
even again, Civil War introduced Black Panther,
yeah,
and they give you enough so you as a viewer understand his role in the story and who he is.
yeah, exactly. And
It's
Spider-Man,
not a
you
lot
need to
to
say
ask.
Spider-Man too.
Yes, like they
Yeah,
don't, and it's cool to see Wonder Woman fight and shit, but like it's not. It
yeah,
doesn't mean anything.
yeah, and this movie plays out the exact way we thought it was gonna play out, especially I think it was after I think it was like a Comic-Con trailer, like the
Oh
three and
yeah,
a
with
minute
Doomsday.
trailer where it like ruined the whole movie. It's like, you know exactly how it's gonna play out. Batman hates Superman, Superman hates Batman, they're gonna fight in the middle of the movie, then they're gonna come to an agreement and team up at the end of the movie with Wonder Woman, and they're gonna go fight Doomsday. And that's
Yeah, and then
exactly I
Doomsday's
just
probably
gave
gonna
you the
kill
entire
Superman.
plot. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, stupid. And
Yeah.
putting Death of Superman in a movie where Batman and Superman
Well,
first meet is
dude,
so stupid.
dude, and it just and it feels so much like an afterthought. If it was like we have to do this. I'm like, no, you don't. Like you don't.
Literally, Doomsday shouldn't have been in the movie.
Exactly. That's the problem. This movie is literally trying to adapt like five different comic book storylines into a 2.5 hour
And
movie.
it's also trying to satiate Zack Snyder's love of Dark Knight Returns by having armored Batman versus Superman. I'm like, or he does like that one shot that's the Dark Knight Returns lightning shot, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like
Yeah.
you make great music
And
videos, Zach, but
and
come on.
it's just like it's just painful too when like there is nothing to differentiate Gotham and Metropolis.
Oh my
And
god,
like and not only that, they're neighboring fucking cities.
they're literally pretty much the same city. It's
Yeah,
so
like they're
lazy.
yeah, it's literally right across the bay. And don't even
I
get
couldn't believe that in the theater.
yeah.
When the bat signal goes up and you can see it from like the roof of the Daily Planet, I'm like, what? Like Gotham's right over there?
And
Are you
don't even
kidding
and
me?
yeah, I was like, because I've always been under the understanding that like Gotham was in like New York or something, and like
They're. I
yeah,
mean,
and
it's always
Metropolis
been
was
they're
in
at
like
least far
Kansas.
away.
Yeah, I was always under the impression Metropolis was in Kansas, and like Gotham was like a stand-in for like New York or Chicago or something.
Sure. I mean, they're always. I always kind of picture Metropolis is like at least in like the movies and the comics. Smallville was like we're putting it next to Smallville, but in the comics and the movies, like I picture Metropolis as like New York, and
Yeah,
Gotham is like Chicago. Like
yeah,
there's like a good space between them,
yeah.
and it was just lazy. I don't know. The whole thing was lazy.
But yeah, I think there's just too many annoyances for me in this movie like that though. Like Gotham and Metropolis being right across the bay. The fact that the only person Superman seems to care about in this movie is Lois, like,
Mhm.
and she's literally a plot device. Like,
And
oh,
when he is saving people, there's no
oh, yeah,
intimacy. It's so they treat him like they do the whole "oh, Superman's a modern god" type of thing, and it's
but
like,
like, but
okay, but
and they have those.
Superman's fun because he's just a small town boy from Kansas. He
Well,
literally talks about that at the end of Man of Steel.
yeah,
Like, so Zack Snyder's aware of it because he's like, I'm just a guy from Kansas, General. Like, but like, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like he is
well,
being.
and then here's my problem too. Like you have those scenes where it's like you do see him saving people, and everybody's like got their arms like out to him. The movie before he destroyed the entire city. Like no, they didn't sell me on that. The fact that he didn't see when he's in the courtroom, like he didn't see the bomb because like, it was like it was lead or something. I'm like, but it's not only that; it's the fact that after the bomb goes off, like save some people. Like
Yeah,
you're just
try,
literally standing there,
try.
bud.
Use your super speed. Use your super breath. So fly people out of there.
Anything.
Whatever.
Like he just stands there. It's little annoyances like that, you know? Like, and there's so many more throughout this movie. The email thing is a big annoyance, but it's just there's too many of those for me in this movie. And don't even get me started. I'm not even gonna refer to him by his actor name because I don't anymore. He is Pipsqueak to me. Uh, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Lex Luthor Jr. That was bullshit. That was
I
the one of the worst performances I have ever seen in a big budget block, not just big budget superhero movie, big budget blockbuster movie ever. You hear me? Like ever. Ever. You and I go back and forth a lot on Bond. We both agree Denise Richards is horrible. This is worse. I think. Like,
again,
this is
I think
literally the worst performance I've seen in a big budget movie.
Lex Luthor uh, has been many things throughout many years of comic books. He has been just straight up supervillain. He's been a mad scientist. He's been a rich dude. He's been, a good guy. He's been a bad guy. He's all
Realistic.
sorts of different things. I'm okay with different interpretations of Lex. And yes, before you come at me, I'm aware this is similar to that one series, Birthright.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, you're correct.
yeah.
Um, doesn't mean it's the Lex that I would want in the cinematic universe
My problem.
because
Yeah,
he's the core of Lex Luthor is gone and it's laughably bad and it's cringy. And if you can't look at the character and go, "That's Lex Luthor," and instead you have to pause and go, "Is that the Riddler or is it Lex Luthor?" It,
or are you just doing your best Heath Ledger impersonation as the Joker?
it's just I get what they were going for. It's like a younger, Silicon Valley Lex, it's like eccentric weirdo, but like it doesn't work. It's so cringy. It's not
Yeah,
threatening. It takes every monologue he has where he's saying some things that Lex Luthor probably would say,
yeah.
but it just makes them all laughable and like not interesting. It just the performance takes away because he's oh. I vividly remember sitting in the theater in 2016, and he's giving that speech, which was like fucking 8 years ago, by the way, and he's giving that speech, and he's like. And he's like struggling, and Casey turns to me and she goes, "This isn't Lex Luthor," and this is
It's like
Casey
even
doesn't
general audiences know it's not Lex
yeah,
Luthor.
Casey doesn't care about Superman that much. She
Yeah,
watched like 4 seasons of Smallville, but she's like, "This isn't Lex Luthor." She's like, "There's no way Lex Luthor would have trouble talking to an audience," and I'm like, "I know."
yeah. And, and here's my other problem with it. Okay, like if you're making this a cinematic universe, why is this Lex Luthor Jr. when we haven't seen the previous Lex before?
Because it's an excuse to make this Lex
Well, that's
different.
the thing. Well, that's the thing because like they cast Jesse Eisenberg, and then look, like Ben Affleck as Batman, it got a lot of backlash. But unlike Ben Affleck as Batman, he didn't prove us wrong. We were all right. And then their excuse was for that casting. They were like, no. We cast him because he's not Lex Luthor. He's Lex Luthor Jr. So I'm like, so Superman doesn't even know the actual Lex Luthor.
No, yeah, it doesn't. The fact that he's a junior makes no difference in
Yeah,
the movie. It
yeah,
makes zero. He talks about his father the same way Lex Luthor would talk about his abusive father,
yeah,
and he's goes bald by the end. He's
yeah,
obsessed with kryptonite. He hates Superman. He
yeah.
runs LexCorp. It's Lex Luthor.
Right.
Every time people brought up the junior thing, I'm like, it literally makes no difference. This is obviously, and sure enough, it's been 10 years in the TCEU. It's dying now. It's gone. But in those 10 years, did we
Uh,
ever see Lex Luthor Sr.? No, because he never was Lex Luthor Sr. This
yeah,
was always their version of Lex. And he
exactly.
was terrible.
And
He was absolutely atrocious.
I honestly think that they actually like I was saying, I think that they actually rewrote him to be Lex Luthor Jr. because of the backlash of the
Oh
cast.
yeah, they there wasn't even rewriting. There wasn't even rewriting.
Yeah.
All they did was put Junior at the end of his
Yeah.
credits. That's all. There
Exactly.
literally is
Exactly. Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
There's nothing about his father besides he's abusive, which Lex Luthor's dad, no matter what version of you're talking about, Lex Luthor's dad is always abusive, whether he's a small town hick or he's Lionel freaking Luthor. He's always
Yeah.
abusive. It doesn't matter. Like it's just people would use that excuse, and I'm like, no, like watch the movie.
Yeah.
That's clearly
And
Lex
then like
Luthor.
and then the whole thing where the movie builds up to his grand plan where it's like Superman's a god and I want these two things to fight, you know?
Okay, yeah, the plan makes no sense. I wanna frame Superman, I wanna make people hate him, I want Batman to go after Superman, I want Batman to kill Superman by
This
stealing
doesn't
my
sound like a
kryptonite.
Lex Luthor thing.
It's just overly complicated and stupid. And then he goes, "Oh, so Batman and Superman are gonna fight, and while that's happening, I'm gonna make Doomsday." And then Doomsday can kill Superman. I'm like, but don't you already want Batman to kill Superman? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, but he's a contingency. I'm like, so you created a Kryptonian monster
Yeah.
that you literally like, sure, he doesn't know he can't control it,
Yeah.
but also don't you hate Superman because he's Kryptonian and overly powerful? It's just oh, it's
Which
all
is somehow in that time span he also kidnapped Superman's mom.
yeah, Martha, which we have to talk. I mean, the most
Yeah.
famous scene from
Another
this
one of my
movie,
annoyances with this movie.
the most famous scene. It is literally the dumbest execution. And before people go off on me, I understand what they're trying to do.
I think we all do.
It's the execution that's awful.
The repeat, yeah, that's just the thing. It's like we know what they're doing, but repeatedly we're just going to keep saying it's the execution because the execution is awful. It
It,
is. It really is.
the idea that Batman sees Superman's humanity right before he tries to kill him
It's
is a
cool.
good idea.
Great idea.
The fact that he only realizes it because Superman goes, "Save Martha!" And it's like, okay, and then that triggers Batman's Martha's mom dying. Like it is, and he's like, oh man, my mom's name was Martha. He's a human, he has a mom. It's like because and she's Martha, and no other Martha's gonna die tonight, which is the stupidest fucking line. So, like it's just they took a little funny piece of trivia about Batman and Superman, which is their mom are both Martha, and they turned
They
it
turned
into
it
like
into a plot point.
the pivotal plot point. And it's like, but like, it's dumb for so many reasons. Superman, why is he calling his mom Martha?
Yeah.
You get the exact same effect without all the nonsense Martha
Yeah.
trivia shit.
Just be
If he
like, save
goes,
my mom.
save my mom.
Yeah.
And then Batman will go, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Exactly.
And he's like, and then he can be like, my mom, Martha Kent, like save her. Like she's
Yeah.
kidnapped, save her.
Better.
And
Would have worked
like
better.
you can kill me, but save my mom.
Yeah.
Like that is like,
If they
okay,
had done the
shit.
death of Superman that way, that would have been cool. I think.
I mean, even I just think that should have been how Batman goes, oh shit, like maybe this guy isn't. But then the fucking it's a ridiculous scene, and then the flip is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But suddenly Batman goes, within 5 minutes, he's saving Martha, going, I'm a friend of your son's.
I'm like,
And
dude,
I'm like,
you've
this
been
is
trying to fight him for the past 2 hours.
not even just trying to fight him. This is the dude who was going off about if there's even a 1% chance that Superman is a threat, he must be taken out. And I'm like, so just because he has a mom named Martha now, that threat is suddenly gone
Yeah.
completely. Like
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
just dumb. And that doesn't even bring up like, okay, you and I have talked about No Time to Die and contrivances of setting someone up for unwarranted death because you want a character to die, so you force the plot to make that happen.
Yeah.
They do Death of Superman, but they don't just have Doomsday beat Superman to death like the comics.
Yeah.
They do this whole thing where there's the kryptonite spear and it's thrown in the water, and Lois has to go get the spear, and then
Lois Lane is the key.
Lois, and then Superman takes the spear and runs it through Doomsday, and I'm like, give the spear that is poisonous to you to Wonder Woman. She uses weapons. She can probably throw that thing like a javelin.
Exactly.
Like oh,
Exactly.
but she's holding Doomsday with the lasso. It's like, yes, because the plot is demanding for that to happen.
Yeah.
Superman could have just as easily held Doomsday down while Wonder Woman stabs him. It's
Right.
so dumb. I was sitting there like,
and
okay, they want Superman. We're doing Death of Superman. We're doing that. Clearly, we're doing Death of Superman, and
And then,
it's just
it's like the final scene of the movie. It's like, what was the point? Because you see his coffin in the ground, and then you see the dirt rising. So I'm like,
yes,
and at that point, it's like, what was the point of doing it then?
because they wanted to do Death of Superman. But the dumb thing is, you're launching again, just like with old Batman. You're launching a cinematic universe, and you're starting it pretty much with Superman dying. I think that's so dumb. That doesn't. We barely know him.
Yeah,
Why should we care? We've had one movie, really. This
yeah,
movie, he's treated like an antagonist most of the time,
yeah.
or as a guy who's just, I'm gonna go hike a mountain because I'm sad. And I'm like he's not hopeful. He's not. They go, oh well, after he comes back to life, he'll be hopeful Superman. And I go, why?
This is how can he be hopeful when he kills his best buddy Jimmy Olsen?
Just the decisions are so weird.
Yeah,
I just hate
Jimmy
this.
Olsen. Speaking of Jimmy Olsen, as a CIA agent,
Yeah, there's a CIA
what's
agent
his
who they
name
shoot
from
in the face.
yeah, and it's what's his name from uh
Grant Gabriel.
yeah,
I
exactly.
I hate this movie. I still
Yeah,
do.
it's literally got like two. Like I like Ben Affleck as Batman. Don't like the material he's given, and that one action scene that he's in.
It's a convoluted mess with terrible execution all
And
the way
everybody's
through.
like, "Oh, the Ultimate Edition fixes it." I'm like,
No,
"No,
it doesn't.
it's
No, it doesn't. It improves it a little bit,
yeah,
but
it
it
fixes
just
the
it
pacing a little bit."
fills in some things that literally make no sense in the
Yeah,
theatrical.
I'm like, okay, like you at least have Clark Kent doing some
Yeah,
investigative report.
Clark has some extra dialogue in a movie called that has Superman in the title.
Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah,
Cool.
but that's like it.
Yeah, I'm done talking about it. I hate this movie.
Well, I think we're gonna hate the next one too, because the next one is Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but at least with Suicide Squad, I don't have much to say about it because it's just bad.
I think almost everybody can universally agree that's bad.
I
There's no like in fan fighting from like different
no.
fandoms.
Suicide Squad 2016 is uh
It's awful.
a really bad music video where
Yeah,
Margot Robbie's great as Harley and that's about it.
yeah.
Jared Leto's a terrible Joker.
Dude, I hated how they portrayed Joker in this. He's like a gangster or something in this.
He's got grill, he's got tattoos, he's not funny,
It's
he's
like
not scary.
it was like I remember when they first showed him in the trailer. I was like, is he trying to do like his best Heath Ledger impersonation? Because like the voice to me sounded like a little bit of like Heath Ledger in there.
I
Because he's
mean,
like,
I
oh,
think at this point, anyone doing Joker, I feel like is inherently influenced by Heath.
yeah, because like I remember when he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you, real bad." And then like he has the stupid like haha tattoo on him. Yeah, I'm just
I mean, but then the thing is, like, Joker's awful, and then he's utilized so terribly in the movie. Like, he's barely like a factor.
yeah,
And people
exactly.
go, oh, well, he's in more of the air cut, and I'm like, I don't want to see the air cut.
I don't think
I don't
anybody
care.
does.
I don't care how many times David Ayer goes on Twitter and goes, well, people told me that my cut was one of the best superhero
Dude,
movies of
it's
all
been
time. I'm
eight
like, I'm
years.
sure they said that,
Yeah,
David.
dude, it's been 8 years. Be like Elsa from Frozen and let it go.
I just don't care enough about this movie to even want to see a different cut of it.
I literally don't remember this movie. So, and I honestly had no plans to rewatch it, even when I did like a marathon of this whole thing. I because here was my thing. Like, you know me, like I'm a completionist. I have to have like
Yeah.
if I have part of a series, I have to have the rest of the series. This
You
is
own Transformers The Last Night.
this is one where I just didn't care though, because I was just like, I'm just gonna get the ones because like Batman versus Superman pissed me off so much. This movie pissed me off so much. I was like, I'm just gonna get the ones that I like, you know?
You know what though? This movie had a cool trailer. I liked the trailer.
Yeah, but that's the problem. This movie is either a music video or a trailer for a movie that we never got.
And the Enchantress is one of the worst villains. I hate
They
that
made
character.
Cara Delevingne a villain, and then like she's over here like belly dancing.
Yeah, it's
And
bad.
yeah,
Why would you the Suicide Squad, like just in general,
is
why
more.
would you
I think they would do something more along the lines of what they do in James Gunn's Suicide Squad. They plop them in
yeah,
a country with like an evil dictator.
yes.
Dictator, they're mercenaries. They're like your mercenaries, your expendable mercenaries that are gonna go fight mercenaries.
Yeah, like, you could or, like, fight, like, other things, but, like, the Enchantress is such a weird thing for them to have to
Dude.
fight.
And
And
then
her weird
shit,
CGI brother.
shit, man, it's all coming back to me now. Fuck. Yeah, and then we literally thought, because remember, like in like 2009 ish to like 2012 ish, like all there was you know how Hollywood always has its trends. They always
Yeah.
like one of like the trend in that time frame was like, oh, beam in the sky.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
movie brought that trend back. There's legitimately a giant beam in the sky. I think it's a portal. I don't remember. I think it's a portal though. It's a giant fucking beam. And I sat in the theater. I was like, we're doing this again?
Yeah.
Like, isn't this like 5 years too old now?
I don't like this
I
movie.
don't like any like
I've never had any desire to rewatch it
dude,
ever.
and then it's like it this is like another case too where I think like David Ayer just wanted to focus on like certain characters and then just forget about the rest, kind of like Zack Snyder did with Batman in a BVS. Whereas like that because that felt more like a Batman movie. It was like he clearly wanted to make a Batman movie. I feel like David Ayer wanted to make like a solo Harley Quinn movie here or a Deadshot movie because Harley Quinn and Deadshot get the most screen time. Like Captain Boomerang is in this movie. And I'm just like, for like 5 minutes, I'm like, who the hell's he? Like, I'm like, who the hell are half these people?
Yeah, and they don't make a lot of them very interesting.
No.
I remember Killer
I will
Croc
say,
is, like, underused.
yeah, I will say this. It wasn't 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't like Suicide Squad.
I don't either. I don't remember much of it. I remember it being like edited poorly too. I remember there was like I think there was like an action scene in like an office building or like a police precinct too, and it's like everybody's trying to crack jokes, but I'm like the tone doesn't really call for cracking jokes.
Mhm.
This sucks. Like Margot Robbie, great as Harley Quinn. That's like about it.
Yeah, I mean, she's, like, the one thing that really continues from this movie. But,
Yeah,
I mean, Rick Flag technically, but he's, like, a completely different character.
yeah. I didn't even like Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag in this. I like him more in
No, he's
yeah.
bad in this. He's
Yeah,
great in the other
dude,
one. Is
everybody is bad in this movie
yes, because the
except,
writing is
Margot
atrocious.
Robbie.
The famous, "This is Katana. Her sword sucks out the souls of
I
its
don't even
victims."
remember that.
What are we, some kind of Suicide
Oh,
Squad?
yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Although I do like Viola Davis as Amanda Waller.
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah, I
She's
mean it's
great.
Viola Davis. How can you not like her?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hate this movie. I don't like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's it. We don't remember much about it, so we're not going to harp on it. Moving on to 2017, where we finally had one that was critically acclaimed. That was Wonder Woman. Okay, I'll say this. I do like Wonder Woman as a movie. I really do. I do think it's a good movie. I
Mm.
don't think it's the saving grace everybody makes it out to be though. And that is
You
mostly
loved it at first. I remember
I did, but then
that.
I've hardened on it a little bit. I think the reason is because like I'm enjoying it. Like Gal Gadot's like yeah, she's not a great actress. I'll say that. No. But like I was going along with it. I was like, okay, like she has good chemistry with Chris Pine. I was like, this actually feels like a movie, you know. Like I like a lot of the characters. I like the World War I setting. I think there's some pretty cool action scenes. Like I love the scene where she's in no man's land in the trench and she's like dodging the bullets on her bracelets. I'm like, that's awesome. The third act really, really brings this movie down because the whole movie a big plot point of this movie is that Wonder Woman or Diana, whatever you want to call her, she literally thinks that this war is happening because the god of war Ares has come back. And so the whole movie, she's trying to go after Ares. So you just hear Gal Gadot going, Ares, Ares, the whole movie. And then turns out that fucking David Thewlis is Ares. And there's this big CGI giant monster fight at the end. And then Dr. Poison for some reason is in this movie with Danny Houston, who I hate. Um, they literally like once you get to that point, like what the moment she enters like the airstrip and she kills Doctor Poison and Danny Houston, I forget who he plays, I don't care. And then she fights Ares, the movie tanks. It's still a good movie, but it just that whole thing just nearly derails it. Did I just literally sum up what you were gonna say?
No, no. I have never loved Wonder Woman 2017.
Yeah,
I
I know.
think it I think it's solid. I think there are parts of it that are like really cool.
Yeah,
I think they handled Diana coming to like the modern or coming to the man's world
yeah,
uh well. I
yeah.
think it's interesting. Um, I don't think Gal Gadot was the right casting. I never have.
No,
I think it works a little better for her in this one because her character's kind of meant to be kind of like
fish
wide-eyed
out of
and like
water. Yeah,
yeah. And then I just think there's so many better actresses that could have brought so much more to Diana.
yeah,
Um, I think Chris Pine's pretty entertaining. I think the villains all suck straight
yeah.
up.
They do.
I think Dr. Poison
That,
sucks. I think Danny Houston always sucks. I think the Ares reveal is so stupid, especially once he becomes giant
uh,
CGI with his CGI mustache underneath the. I'm like, I hate this.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a decent movie up until the end. The last like third, I think sucks.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Basically, what I was saying.
The way Chris Pine dies is stupid.
Yeah,
I think here's everything this movie does. Captain America: The First Avenger did better, straight up,
it's
straight up.
true. Yeah,
I think they do the period piece thing better.
yeah,
I think they do the hero's journey better. I think they do the sacrifice better at the end. I
yeah.
think the villains are better.
You
I
also
just
have
think
like you. They also kind of do like the whole Thor thing where they have like that band of people that kind of are like the Warriors Three.
I mean, yeah, but that's kind of like the Howling Commandos in Captain America, and I
Yeah,
think they're handled way better in that. Like,
yep.
the No Man's Land scene is great. It's a cool action scene.
I
Like,
love it.
but I I've never really liked this
I don't
movie
know.
that much.
I think when I first saw it, I think I just became more like enamored in like the fact that like she's a fish out of water. Like this is
Mhm.
all new to her. Like she's literally going up to babies and she's like, "Oh, like a little baby. Like how are you?" Like I think Gal Gadot's good in those scenes. It's when you give her like Shakespeare-esque soliloquies.
Aries,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Aries.
Like I think and similar to Ben Affleck, like I think she has good physicality. Like I think she does a lot of her own stunts. I think she's great with the stunt work. Especially in the action scenes. The No Man's Land one I really like. And then there's that one where she's like going through like all the different towers, I think too.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like her
yep.
theme playing, like that theme's annoying, by the way. Um, I like that action scene too. Like I like too how it's kind of like both her and Steve Trevor are both fish out of water. Like, cause the first like 30 minutes is him on Themyscira. Like, oh,
Yeah.
like where am I? And then she has to come to the I guess she's at that point the modern like the world that she doesn't know. It's not the modern world because it's World War I, but like and then she becomes the fish out of water. And I thought those actually both coalesce pretty well. It's just really that third act for me. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never loved this movie.
I do think the story's definitely tighter than the last like three movies. I yeah.
I mean, BVS is a mess.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad was a mess. So
Yeah.
I think people were just happy DC made a functioning movie.
Yeah. And I think that that's why I'm kind of more lenient on it because I'm like at least it's functional, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
I like my grievances aside, like it at least feels like a movie. And
Yeah.
with a distinct like directorial voice that doesn't feel like it's trying to be too stylistic but still has like a distinct voice, you know. So,
Hmm.
yep, that's my 2 cents on Wonder Woman. I think it's definitely one of the it's not people claim it's the best DC extended universe movie. I disagree. It's one of the best, I think. It's one of the better ones. But it's not the best for me.
I think it's like mid tier.
Okay. Yeah, it's not the best for me. So, let's move on. This next one's going to be I don't know how we should talk about this next one
Is it
because
Justice League?
it is Justice League. So, do we
I think
lump
we should just talk straight up about the whole thing.
Yeah, we lump this with the Snyder cut.
Yeah, I mean, because originally Zack Snyder's movie was supposed to be this, so
Yeah. As much shit as I've talked about Zack Snyder a little bit in this video,
mhm.
um, I will say with this movie, given what happened, I feel bad for the guy.
Of course, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
because he had to leave due to an unforeseen circumstance. For those of you that don't know, his daughter committed suicide, so he was forced to leave the production, and then they hired Joss Whedon do all the reshoots and all that, and keep it under 2 hours for a Justice League movie, which is crazy. Um, but it was very clear that there was a smear campaign against him, so that they just wanted to keep his name as the director on this movie. I get that there's things out there where it's like, well, if a director, how the director credits work, if you direct a certain percentage of the movie, your name is listed as the director. Might have happened, might not have. But for me, it felt, as much as I don't like Zack Snyder's versions of these characters, I felt bad for him because it felt like a smear campaign for me. Because I was just like, they're just because they knew. I feel like they knew this movie wasn't going to make any money, and they
Oh,
just,
yeah, I mean, they knew
yeah,
the movie was yeah,
yeah,
there
they knew
was
it was garbage.
they wanted Zach, it seems, they wanted him out
Yeah,
prior to his family tragedy, and
yeah.
they took advantage of the
They
family.
took advantage of it and made a smear campaign, slapped his name on the director's credit to make him look bad.
Because when he had to leave, I mean, I know there's a lot riding on this movie and stuff, but do you feel like they could have, like,
Salvage some.
postponed the movie,
Yeah,
waited for him to or something, but then or hired someone that wasn't so directly, like, contrasting styles?
right, right.
Like, do you
It
you
wasn't as
bring
like
in you bring in
crazy.
Joss Whedon,
Yeah,
and he has a completely different
styles.
style.
Yeah,
Like, you can see when
and
you watch
and temperament on set too.
Justice League 2017 is Frankenstein's monster. You can literally see the stitching in the movie
Yeah,
of individual scenes where Joss Whedon inserted a joke there, where he inserted a shot
yeah.
there,
It's. I
coloring,
remember. I
everything.
I remember sitting in the theater opening weekend. And Dwayne. For those of you
Yeah,
that don't know, Dwayne's our friend who we do a podcast with. He kept telling me beforehand. He's like, "Dude, you're just going in wanting to hate this movie. Like, it's probably going to be good. Like, just give it a chance." I'm like, "I will give it a chance, but I'm not expecting anything." And then and then he walked out and was like, "Yeah, you were right." I was like, "Yeah, it was." You have Aquaman going, "My man." Uh, yeah, you could definitely tell, like you said, where the stitching was. Like you could definitely tell what scenes were Joss Whedon. Like that whole scene, I think, where they're in the hangar and Aquaman's like addressing the whole scene. I'm like, that's a Joss Whedon scene. Like
oh, yeah, I mean,
you can
you
tell.
could within scenes as well, different
Yeah,
shots,
yeah,
you can see Ben Affleck's physicality change, and suddenly, every time they cut away to a moment like that, there's some sort of Joss Whedon joke,
yeah,
like, every time.
yeah.
And it just the Justice League 2017 is hardly a movie. Like, it's like an abomination, kind
Right, right.
of.
Exactly.
Uh, and like Superman's face because of Henry Cavill not being able to shave the
I
mustache.
forgot about that. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
terrible.
He had
It's
that stupid.
terrible.
He had that stupid thing stipulated into his Mission Impossible contract where he couldn't shave the mustache.
Yeah.
That was
So,
stupid. And he got
but I
called
mean,
back for reshoots.
yeah. And so suddenly every Superman scene is him acting like super hopeful Superman, but his face is like a Snapchat
Yeah,
filter. It's terrible.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, the 2017 one, I hardly consider a movie. I'm never gonna watch it again.
No.
It's an abomination.
I remember the last time I went through it because, like I said, I didn't want to buy any of these. But Dwayne kind of forced my hand as a joke. He got me to this movie and Suicide Squad as a joke. So I was like, all right, I gotta get PVS now just to be
And
complete.
like as annoying and like irritating as it was to hear hashtag release the Snyder cut like for like fucking forever.
Yeah,
Um, I'm glad that it ended up happening, and I'm glad that Zach got to release the movie more that he was envisioning.
yeah.
Um, I don't like that it's 4 hours long. I
I don't
think
either.
you should be able
But
to
I
do a
mean,
movie.
but at the same time though, so let's just get right into the Snyder cut. There's
Yeah.
a massive difference because
Oh yeah, massive improvement.
yeah,
Yeah,
massive improvement. I don't think the Snyder cut, first of all, I mean, and people are probably going to hate both of us for saying this because everybody puts it up on a pedestal because it's so much better than this movie.
yeah.
It's not great.
Hey, I don't love it.
Yeah,
I think it's a huge improvement.
it is. It definitely is. But that's the thing. Alls I needed, it didn't need to be great for me. Alls I needed was an improvement, and that's what it
Yeah,
was.
like, it's definitely an improvement. It's not I don't consider it, like, a great superhero movie. I think it's definitely a better movie. I think it makes some interesting choices.
Yeah,
Zach's movie has way better character moments,
it does.
way better, like everything.
It at least
Um,
I at least got an understanding as to who Cyborg was.
sure,
Yeah, like, even
Steppenwolf was better.
Steppenwolf was better, even though he's still like a D-list
Yeah,
villain, you know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I did like with the Snyder cut. I did like that if this universe had continued, like if Zack Snyder had stayed on, that he was probably building up to Darkseid.
I mean, yeah, but my thing is just put Darkseid in this movie. Darkseid should have been Steppenwolf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing.
um, but yeah, I like there's stuff I don't like. I don't like how overly long the Snyder cut
No, I
is.
don't either.
I hate the freaking nightmare ending or whatever with the
Oh,
apocalypse. Like
with
it's so
yeah, with Batman, when Batman just literally goes to the Joker, "I'll fucking kill you."
yeah, it's just like it's so unnecessary. And like you know that most likely this is it, Zach. This is you're
Yeah,
not going to be
don't
doing
even
more
do it.
DC. Yeah, don't be
We didn't
setting
even
up
talk
for
about that scene with BVS.
yeah, because it's random and stupid.
Yeah,
Like it's just all that was just so lame.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I don't like that, but overall, I'm glad the Snyder cut eventually saw the light of day
yeah, yeah.
because it was a massive
As much shit talking as I did about it, where I was like, "It doesn't exist. Like, it's just a myth."
yeah,
And
yeah.
I am glad that we finally got an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, it. To be fair, it didn't exist. The thing was always, oh, it's on a shelf somewhere. It's like, no, they had to give Zach like what was it, like 70
70
million
million.
dollars to finish this.
Yeah,
So it didn't exist. He had to finish.
yeah,
So I mean, people were like, "Oh, see, it's real." It's like,
yeah. I
yeah, no, the concept was real. He needed to finish the movie with
Right,
$70 million, which is more
right,
than most movies cost to make.
right, right. Exactly. And it wasn't even supposed to be a movie at first. It was supposed to be like an HBO Max like
Yep, series or
mini
whatever.
series or something. Yeah, I will say, I think when you look at the progression from because his his cut of Justice League, Man of Steel, and BVS are kind of considered their own little trilogy.
Yeah,
I think if you look at the progression, as bad as BVS is, I think where the characters end up are what I wanted to see from the characters in the beginning. I've grown that's my thing. Like I've grown to like Ben Affleck as Batman because of this cut. I think Henry Cavill, despite not having much to do, I think he's a lot better in this cut, and I like what Snyder actually does with him in his cut. Uh, Aquaman, I think, is handled better than in the theatrical cut. I
hey,
saw, I hate the fucking
Martian
Flash.
Manhunter.
Martian Manhunter. Yep. I
He's
still
that general.
yeah, I still hate the Flash. I'm just gonna say that. But like Cyborg and all, I could get on board. Like if this wasn't the end, like I could get on board with seeing more because we finally got to the versions of the characters that I wanted to see.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yep. I think that's a big reason why I've kind of been lenient on Affleck as Batman because I'm like, okay, like he actually did something with Affleck as Batman, you know.
Aquaman. Um,
Aquaman.
Aquaman is really fun, really stupid.
It's the dumbest movie in this bunch, but it's five movies in one, but it's a lot of fun.
It's allowed to be dumb though, because Aquaman in
It's
the
kind of
concept
dumb.
is a little dumb, and but they handle it mostly seriously for the most part. Like they take it, they don't like poke too much fun at themselves.
Right.
Like they treat it as like a mythic King Arthur adventure
Yeah.
movie, and like I dig that. I appreciate that it felt to me so much like the Aquaman comics,
Yeah.
and
That's what I
I
felt
really
watching
appreciate.
it. Like it felt like an Aquaman comic left off the screen.
Yeah, like I really appreciated that. Um, Jason Momoa was an interesting choice as Aquaman. He definitely brings a lot of Momoa isms to like the character.
His charm.
Yeah, but it also has one of the worst scripts I've ever
Oh
seen.
yeah. Oh, for
The
sure. For
my
sure.
favorite terrible script moment is in this movie, which is there's this scene where um I forget which way it goes, but Arthur goes something like, I always wanted to have a brother. And then instead of responding to that, because the movie realized we need to explain something for later in the movie, instead of responding to that like a natural conversation, Orm goes, the Karathan is a mythic beast that lives in the blah blah blah. And I'm like, nobody was talking about anything that had anything to do with that. It's just that they were like, "Where do we put this exposition?
Yeah.
Shit, just give it to Orm right there." And
Yeah.
it's like he's not even gonna address what Arthur
And
just
then
said.
well, and then you just have like weird, stupid, random shit that's like you can like laugh at too, like the octopus playing the drums.
Hey, that was great.
I know that was
Um,
great. I love it. It's so stupid. I love it.
I had so much fun with this movie despite how stupid it is. I think it's funny that they make the opening scene makes you kind of root for Black Manta because Arthur seems like such an asshole.
Permission to come aboard.
um, Orm, I appreciate they went all out with Ocean Master's look, with Black Manta's look. Like they
Dude,
weren't
Dolph
afraid.
Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren, they weren't afraid. They embraced the stupidity and the ridiculousness, and for the most part, it worked. I love the music in this movie.
Oh, the
I
music's
love
awesome.
yeah, some of the CGI looks atrocious, but it somehow works.
Yeah,
Um,
especially the underwater stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, Amber Heard
Amber
and
Heard
Momoa
isn't
have no chemistry.
no chemistry. She's not great. Um, yeah, I enjoy this movie. I have fun with this movie. I think because I mean I love Aquaman. Just growing up, I always liked the character.
Yeah.
And they really try to make it this big world, this big with all this
They
lore
tried
and
to
with all
make it the DC Lord of the Rings.
yeah, like it was cool. Like it was fun. It was cool. It was stupid. It was just a good time when I
Trench.
saw it. The trench scene is legitimately awesome. It's like a horror scene.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Um, yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I think it was DC embracing its comic bookness in a way that wasn't overly serious like it had
Yeah.
been. It allowed itself to be goofy and fun.
And plus too, you have like all those like signature like James Wan moments too, where he has those really long takes, like the opening when Nicole Kidman inside the
Oh
light.
yeah.
I always
Yeah.
thought those things looked like Power Rangers, anyways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, like my favorite stupid moment in this movie is when the water gets sucked out of the guy's suit and he goes into the toilet to like drink more water. That's
Yeah.
that is honestly one of my favorite moments in this movie.
Yeah.
But like you
It's
said,
a
it's just so stupid and dumb,
yeah.
but it embraces that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just a
Yeah.
fun movie. It's
Even
ridiculous.
though it's like 5 movies in one,
Yep.
because we end up at like the Kingdom of the Deserters and yep.
Black Panda's there just to get tossed aside. Like,
Yep.
yeah, it was fun. It's fun. I
It
think
was.
DC should have embraced more of this kind of vibe.
Yeah. I agree.